Hey everyone, this is Matt Wills with Defining Ethos, and today I'm looking at a repost done by Libs of TikTok. Now, the person in the video is the one that actually posted it to his own TikTok, and Lib says California teacher films himself giving lesson for Trans Visibility Week. So let's take a look.
Does everybody agree with the gender they were assigned?
Okay, sorry, I gotta stop it right there. Right off the bat, he said something that is nonsensical. In fact, people that ascribe to trans ideology don't say it this way. He did kind of a switch here. So the funny thing is that people that believe in trans ideology generally try to make a distinction between sex and gender. Sex is a biological reality, and gender is like self-expressionism. It's how you identify, it's your sexuality, this and that. Now, even though they make this distinction, they constantly will blur those lines or contradict themselves. And a great example of this is the line, the sex that I was assigned at birth, right? Because sex, if it's a biological reality, then it cannot be assigned at birth. It's just what you are definitionally biologically, right? So that's a confusion of sex and gender. What he just said is, does everyone agree with the gender that they were assigned? So he did this little switch there. He took out sex and he put in gender, which is completely nonsensical. Because, I mean, no doctors are taking a newborn baby and being like, here's their gender expression, or this is what their sexuality is going to be. No doctor on the planet does that. They determine you are a boy or you are a girl based on your biology. That's what they do. Um, so yeah, it's something that is completely incoherent and nonsensical. So let's continue.
Some of us maybe. Some of us might go, yeah, that's definitely me. But some of us might be looking at that paper and going, I'm not a boy, I'm not a girl. And that's exactly how trans people feel.
Yeah, because of people like you. Stop confusing the kids.
This week is Trans Visibility Week. What does it mean to be visible? Yes, to be seen. Whether or not you agree with transness, trans people do exist. You might not see.
Trans people do exist, guys. So this is a line I hear this from time to time. Trans people exist. And you have to, again, ascribe to the ideology to even believe that's a thing. So yeah, what he's doing there is he's taking trans, again, an ideology. It's something that lives in your thoughts in your mind, so it doesn't exist in the real world, right? And then he's piggybacking that onto something that is reality, which is people, right? People exist. I agree with that. But then to say trans people, right? It's like you could just say people. People exist. Trans, I don't subscribe to that, so no. Now, someone could make the case, are you trying to say that people who transition don't exist? It's like, no, as people, they exist. But to say that a man who's transitioned to a woman is a trans person, it's like, no, they're not a woman. They are, unfortunately, a confused man who has done a lot of harm to their own body, and the other way around, a confused woman that would have done a lot of harm to their own body. So you have to subscribe to this ideology for these terms to even make sense.
Every day, you might not even realize it's a trans person at all. That's because they're regular people living regular lives.
They're regular people living regular lives. You guys, I had no idea. Like, what a claim is that? Like, okay. So, I mean, even just, let's say statistically, you've got trans people that are a very, very small percentage of population. So, I mean, if we take that definition, no, they're not regular, it's irregular, whatever. And even if we get away from social media, because you see the worst of the worst on social media, when I go out into the world, every once in a while I do run into a trans person, and over the years I've had a couple that actually worked for me, and I have to say they're doing everything they can to not be regular in the way that they dress, in the way that they look, in their behaviors. in their subgroups and subcultures that they have, everything that they're doing is trying to go against the grain. So no, they're not regular people living regular lives. They're literally doing everything to not be regular.
Do you have to be trans? No, no one is forcing you to be trans. I'm not forcing you to be trans. Do you have to love trans people? No. It'd be cool if you did, but no, you don't have to. Should you be kind and respectful to trans people just like everybody else? Yes.
All right, so that's about that there. Now I'm gonna scroll down to one of the comments here. This says his name is Christian Sherrod, and he's a huge social media influencer who's dating a man pretending to be a woman. So regular. Well, I guess he's not trans. He involves his little son in all his videos and is teaching him and millions of other kids his whack lifestyle. Take this out of our schools. So I did look into this. He is a social media influencer. He is dating a trans woman, and he does have a son that is in a lot of his videos. So that much is true. Now, interestingly enough, like, I don't know if this guy's teaching at a public school or a private school. That does actually matter because there is an executive order that will defund schools and districts that are teaching these things using federal tax dollars, using the people's tax dollars. So if this is a public school, that school is just playing with fire, right? I mean, this guy aside, any influencer being a teacher in school is playing with fire, but to have this ideology while there is an executive order against it is something that can really mess up the school. Well, and by mess up, I mean like, get them defunded. Now, if it's a private school, yeah, he can totally do this, right? Like it's funded by the families. If the families want this kind of stuff, they can put their money into that and fund a private school doing that. I hope that's not the case, but I think it's even scarier to think that publicly funded tax dollars would be going to this, cuz could you imagine, sending your kid off to a public school being like, "Oh, this is so great. They're going to learn so much. I can't wait to see how they grow and develop." And then while they're at school, they're learning garbage like this. Nah, that's all bad. So let's look at his TikTok here. He's got 1.7 million followers, so he is pretty big. Now, this is TikTok, which is where the kids go, so it's kind of sad to think about it like that. But this is what we just watched. Let's look at a couple of others that have to do with the classroom. Okay, so there's one over here that has a picture of Mewtwo. Great start. Let's try this one.
Tweety Bird, boy or girl? Girl! Tweety is actually a boy. Piglet. Girl! Piglet is a boy. Bluey. Girl!
Okay, so he's pointing out, very young kids' cartoons that are meant to be androgynous. Like when you're a little kid, it's like you just look like a kid for the most part. So, like, a lot of the cartoons are drawn ambiguously like that, and he's asking them why. Weird. Like, when we looked at the first video, I could have sworn this classroom is young high school, so I don't know where he's going.
Okay, we know Bluey is a girl. Mewtwo. Boy! Okay, Mewtwo's nothing. Mewtwo is non-binary. Think about some of those characters.
Mewtwo's non-binary, guys. This is what we're teaching. Mewtwo is non-binary. I'm so glad I took this class so I could know, because, I had to think about that one for a while.
Wrong. That's called misgendering. Now, if you misgender somebody, that could really hurt. So what do you do?
Okay, so the whole point of this lesson is like, here's a bunch of androgynous cartoon characters for kids. Are they boys or girls? Some got it right, some got it wrong. That's what misgendering is like. And that's something that's going to make them feel bad, right? So I guess it's appealing to how you're supposed to treat transgender people in public, that sort of thing. But the funny thing is again, you have to subscribe to the ideology for this to make sense. If I have an ideology that's like, I need people that don't believe what I believe to validate what I believe, or else it's just harmful, or else it's disrespectful, or this and that. You're basically forcing the public around you to conform to your emotions. It's a very strange, very underdeveloped or undeveloped way of thinking, very infantile. So, definitely the wrong thing that should be taught in what seems to be a young high school class. But yeah, I don't subscribe to that ideology. So, like social sciences. Let's look at things that make sense in my classroom.
C'è la luna, mezza mare, mamma mia, mi maradare. Figli mia, cutterare, mamma mia, pensaccia tu.
Okay, that's terrifying. So let's do one more. We'll do another classroom one. Let's see. Okay, here's one that looks like it's about women.
Does a woman's looks determine her worth? No, absolutely not.
Whoa, absolutely not. So he said, does a woman's looks determine her worth? And he follows up with absolutely not. So that's a strong claim, but it's also, there's no context to any of this. So in what context could her looks determine her worth? Right? Is she in a modeling career? Then yes. Is she trying to make more money as a bartender? Then yes. If you're trying to appeal to a like moral worth in general, it's hard to get to a moral worth argument outside of like religion, right? Like everyone has a moral worth, to God or something like that. But if you're saying, does her looks determine her value? There's gonna be places, yes. It depends on the context that you put it in.
What a woman wears determine her worth. No.
No.
Does wearing less mean she's worth less? No. Does wearing more mean she's worth more? No.
So he's just going on, he's making a bunch of ought claims. So instead of teaching these kids what is like actually true, he's going into what ought to be true instead. So like, does a woman wearing more clothes make her more valuable? In some cultures, yes. What are we talking about here? Is what she wears makes her more valuable. Again, all sorts of different things. In fact, a lot of people are so materialist that a lot of their social media, they're constantly buying the next Gucci thing and Supreme thing and this and that, and these clothes are signaling value, and people buy into that and they want to see more and they want to make money because they want to be worth that much. There's definitely subcultures here in the US that the clothes do determine value. Right? So what he's saying is just a blanket statement. It doesn't make any sense.
Does a man determine a woman's worth? This is a big fat no.
A big fat no. Does a man determine a woman's worth? Big fat no. Again, what culture are we talking about? Are we talking about here in the United States? Because even here in the United States, even outside of religious cultures, if you get into a materialistic Instagram type of lifestyle, there's lots of people that will see their relationship transactionally and materialistically, and they'll move from one boyfriend or girlfriend to another boyfriend or girlfriend just to have those photos, to have those videos, to look at this because this validates my value because I can pull this. Yes, absolutely. Like that is a thing. So what I'm seeing from what this guy is saying with all this is he's not teaching kids how to think. He's teaching kids what to think. So this doesn't hold any value in a classroom because they're learning these hard yeses and hard nos to questioning social issues, which social issues in itself is a soft science that changes so frequently. By the time they get out of high school, all the stuff's going to be flipped around. There's going to be new questions. So instead of teaching these kids how to navigate and cross-section these subcultures in ways that it could determine value and couldn't determine value and where and how to look about it, That's what's going to teach kids how to navigate this stuff when they go out into the world. Instead, he's just giving like hard yeses, hard nos, never okay, always okay, that sort of stuff. No value with this at all. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to go over today. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe.